conformity. The pressure of conformity is what's happening today. The United Nations is one of the most dangerous organizations on earth today because it itself has gone through a transformation that it was not created to be. Those of you who are old enough would remember that the United Nations was formed right after World War II, when the nation saw millions of people killed on the battlefield in their countries. And mankind, out of his national guilt, decided, we don't want to fight anymore. Let's talk our problems out. The United Nations was formed for the purpose of preventing wars. So if anyone had a conflict, they would come together at the United Nations. The Security Council would get together, discuss the problems, and then work it out diplomatically so there's no one fight anymore. That was the purpose. However, the United Nations has evolved into something that I simply want to call the global government. The United Nations is now a government, but it is the government of the world, because they are no longer just preventing wars. They want to get involved in your national social standards, your economic programs, your educational programs, your culture, and your spiritual standards. They want to get involved in everything. And they want to dictate to you what you will be, how you will be, what you will believe, what you won't believe, what you will accept, what you won't accept. And it doesn't matter what your government says. Conformity of nations means that globalization is requiring that all nations and societies and people and communities have to conform to the world system. So when you use a term like Christian nation, that means nothing to the United Nations. When you talk about the preamble of your country, that means nothing to the United Nations. When you talk about your spiritual national heritage, that means nothing to the United Nations. Their position is you conform or you starve. Starvation means that they won't allow you to enter opportunities in the World Bank. They will restrict you from opportunities for international loans, for your local programs. They will prevent you from getting involved in the World Trade Organization. In other words, they could starve you to death as a nation if you don't conform. Conformity is dangerous. Conformity demands the surrender of your convictions, your values, your beliefs, your principles, your morality, and your distinction. Conformity means I don't exist anymore, you from me. This, therefore, destroys the uniqueness of a people. In other words, in the Bible, there is a principle called world government. And instead of bringing peace, people are going to resist the pressure to conform. And they're going to literally pick up arms and they're going to fight United Nations peacekeeping forces and burn down their headquarters. And people don't understand that not everybody is willing to conform. Now, I don't know about the small states in the Caribbean, but when you are small, sometimes you think your size is all you get. But let me tell you something, you don't need to be big to be great. A country of 360,000 people beat a nation of 350 million in the Olympics, which means if God could do it in sports, He could do it economically, socially, and most of all, spiritually. So conformity means to destroy your uniqueness. The whole world is therefore going to what I call flux, change. Change is always tampering with the things that you believe. We are saying changes in what I call our traditional values will also see change in our moral standards or our systems that we have accepted as being workable for us. Change is also affecting our cultural norms. A basic cultural norm. That word norms is important. As a matter of fact, the word norms is the Hebrew root word for law. The word in Hebrew for law is the word normals. N-O-M-O-S. It actually means that which is normal. That's law. So when God created the Ten Commandments, for example, he was creating what's supposed to be the cultural norms. In other words, it's supposed to be culturally normal not to commit adultery. It was to be culturally normal not to steal. Culturally normal. The first, we also see changes that are affecting our traditional laws, our traditional belief system, our traditional rules. And that's where the change is affecting us. And here's what I believe is the pursuit of change. The goal of contemporary movement for global social change is to move away from time-tested principles and values that were established by our Creator. That's the change they're trying to get. To move away from what time-tested principles and values now, which things are being tested to be good for social development. Number two, the pursuit of change in our postmodern world is even willing to violate natural law. Another way, they're trying to tell nature, you will change. But the problem is, your rectum is a natural equipment put in your body by God for garbage disposal. So no law in a courtroom or a law in a magistrate court can transform your rectum into an entrance. You can use whichever you want to, but you can't change its natural law. Thirdly, change is inevitable. We've got to understand that. But we should never be changing at the expense of principles. Principles are eternal. You were created by God to continue to create, but not by violating His laws. God gave you the power to rule the earth, but not against His laws. The Creator expected growth and progress within the context of divinely inherent natural laws. God wants you to progress within the context of law. True change is growth and development within the boundaries of inherent natural and spiritual laws. That's true development. For example, you may want to drill for oil in the waters of the Brazil. That's a developmental decision. But you also have to remember that that oil might spill and kill the fish. The fish being dead will deplete our source of protein, which means that our kids now become malnutritioned. And you'll have to import food from other countries who make money off you just to feed your kids. They won't feed you just because of a developmental decision on oil. So there are some laws in place that nature has, that God put in there. And this leads to number 4. Natural and spiritual laws are protected by conscience and creation. You know what you do is wrong. You can't tell me that if you violate a natural law, your conscience doesn't talk to you. The problem is you ignore the conscience. Whatever you're doing is a secret that is wrong. Naturally, you know it's wrong, but you still do it, either because of pleasure or because of pressure. Your conscience is the voice of God. Let me throw garbage in the river, deep in our hearts. We know something's wrong with this. Your conscience is built in by God to keep our convictions in order. Number 5, all true change must occur within the boundaries of natural and spiritual principles and laws. There's got to be some law that protects you from changing yourself right out of oblivion. You won't violate just for pleasure. Shooting caramel in your veins gives you a feeling as if you're going into heaven. These are all pleasures, but the cost of the pleasure, you violate the laws of your body, and your body shuts down. You violate everything just for pleasure, because you think that there's no law. This is why it's important for us to not violate those laws that God established. Not all changes are improvements or advancements or progressive developments. And number 6, never confuse what changes with growth. Some folks think to grow as a country, we need to change everything. That is a lie. Don't you ever believe that. Change is not necessarily growth. For example, you used to weigh 80 and then you changed to 100, 110. Now you grew, but that's not to your benefit. The doctor says, because it got a problem with your heart, a problem with your blood pressure. Now you got to get yourself into problems with diabetes. So not all change is growth, so not all change. We've got to decide what things we should change, what we should not change. And this is what I want you to remember. Everything will change. But the paradox is, change is only possible where something is constant. That means we must be careful what we change. Not everything should be changed. And some things were created to remain unchanged. Change is inevitable. It must be guided by an unwavering commitment to natural and spiritual laws. True growth lies not in blind conformity, but in a judicious balance between progress and the preservation of timeless values. Thank you for listening to this message, as we hope that it has been a blessing to you. Our goal is to show you new paths and opportunities so that you can discover your purpose. Please visit our channel for more videos.